Welcome back to Politics as Usual. I am your host, Eric Wright, here to bring you some new information, some new stories that's been going on in the political world to give you the black perspective or the overall perspective. This is Politics as Usual here on True Executive Radio, bringing you what you need. Now, let's jump on into this because there's a few things that I wanted to discuss and see if we can get some pretty good rapport about it to see if we can get some better understanding about these things that's going on in the country. Let's start off with Alabama. Of course, I'm going to start with Alabama. I'm in Alabama. So, Alabama, along with 13 other states, refused SNAP benefits from the federal government that would provide meals for children that are out of school. Of course, with no school being in, kids won't be able to get any breakfast, lunch, or any snacks from the school system. So to make sure that we attack these food insecurities, the federal government thought it was important to offer the amount of $64 million to each state for SNAP benefits. Now, the governor in Alabama refused that money. Not only did she refuse that money, if that wasn't bad enough, she turned around and 2 months later took out $10 million from the state taxpayers to put into the state SNAP benefit program to give some sort of relief. Now, you could have accepted the 65 million and that could have solved that issue. But for political purposes or to make sure you didn't have to answer to the federal government about the funds or how they're spent or how quickly they're spent, you wanted to get around that by introducing this thing yourself, and is deficient. But $10 million was placed on SNAP benefits. Maybe she believes that most SNAP benefits goes to black or African American, indigenous people, but in actuality, the state population of white people are 3 times as many as the black folks that are in Alabama. Therefore, the main recipients of SNAP benefits would be white people in Alabama. And to this degree, foreigners. And maybe she doesn't understand that. But for whatever reason, this is what she did. Now, breaking from that, because I'm going to come back to our governor later on in the segment. So, I want to shed some light on someone that passed away. There was a few people that passed, but it was a civil rights leader named James Lawson Jr. He died at 95. He was one of the teachers of the nonviolent movement. He wanted to make sure that people in Tennessee, especially, would feel the effects of the things that they were doing, to make sure that they put out a certain kind of image, to make sure you're nonviolent, to show the people and convict people morally that being racist and refusing to accommodate a person because of their race is an old and unjust way of doing things. Now, this guy, he led Nashville to the first desegregation of downtown Nashville, and that's in Tennessee. He was also an advisor to Martin Luther King in the 60s. This was a trailblazer leader, and he died at the age of 95. So shout outs to him, shout out to his family, and I always remember his legacy. With this attack on history, it's up to us to make sure that we allow our children, our grandchildren to know who these leaders were. Let's talk about somebody that did it right this time. This is an organization that absolutely did it right. And you wouldn't expect it, but it is the Major League Baseball League. They did it right, and they have been killing it in 2024. Number one, the first thing they did, Josh Gibson is now the Major League Baseball career leader in batting average, surpassing Ty Cobb, and then the Negro League records of more than 2,300 players are now incorporated in Major League Baseball stats. This is huge. They took statistics from the first Negro National League, the Eastern Colored League, the American Negro League, the East-West League, the Negro Southern League, and the second Negro National League and the Negro American League. The only thing they didn't count is expedition games, but their stats now goes in the record books, solidifying them and their history and their contributions to the game of baseball. There was a guy named Kevin Johnson and Gary Ashwell. These are researchers. These researchers spent almost 2 decades helping assemble all of the stats from the Negro League databases, which included in their project. And these were stats that were given to Jackie Robinson, adding more stats to his record, not just when he played in the MLB, but also when he played in the Negro League. Satchel Paige, the pitcher that pitched almost 5 decades till he was 59 years old. And y'all talk about LeBron being old. 59 years old and could still throw a fastball or a slider. That is amazing. But his stats were also introduced. And let's not forget about Willie Mays. Willie Mays, one of Birmingham guys, played his first professional game in Birmingham, was a part of the Negro League, and he went on to the Major League and put up stats that many can't surpass right now. Gives us a moment to say R.I.P. to Willie Mays because he recently died as well at the age of 99. And it was one of Alabama's own, a great baseball player, and it's definitely a loss not only for Alabama or Birmingham, but the entire country. Now, to segue this, adding of the new stats, and to commemorate Willie Mays' life and his journey, the city of Birmingham, which has great leadership, the mayor there is very forward in thinking to attract the major leagues. So, Rickwood Field is Major League's first baseball field. The oldest baseball field. The oldest baseball field in America is in Alabama, is in Birmingham, called Rickwood Field. Wow. The history there goes all the way back to the Negro Leagues. But they had a special game recently at Rickwood Field where they invited dozens of men that are in their 80s and 90s. Some of them was in wheelchairs. They had canes and they were struggling to walk, but they was able to take the field and be recognized in this game that was played by the Giants and the Cardinals. Had our first Major League Baseball game in Alabama, and the reason was because a great player that was not only recognized in the country as a great Major League Baseball player, he was also recognized as a great Negro League baseball player, given that extra support, given that extra nod to say that our history really mattered. Not only did they have a game, the Major League Major League Baseball League, they actually donated to the A.G. Gaston's Boys and Girls Club. They introduced hydroponic farming, where they donated, and they're going to be bringing hydroponics to Birmingham, Alabama, teaching kids how to grow and take care of their own food to produce fruit, veggies, and maybe even help the surrounding areas. Now, with all of the fanfare, Ken Griffey Jr. being there, Derek Jeter being there, Willie Mays' son being there, even our governor is there. Remember, I said I was going to talk about the governor again. Now, so this strikes me as kind of weird because the governor of Alabama signed a bill into law. The bill is called Senate Bill 129. It targets diversity, equity, and inclusion on college campuses. It bans transgender people from using bathrooms and matching their gender identity. Now, the issue with this is, to me, is if you're going to fight a war on the LGBT community, fight that war. Don't couple the LGBT community with the history and hard times that black people, black Americans, African Americans, indigenous Americans, whatever you want to call us, has faced since we've been in this country or been in this country's control. Now, there's millions of incidents where we see racial disparities and things that have happened time and time again, whether it was with the police department or whether it's with how we are dealt with in a community or in education. Now, this bill also bars state agencies, local boards of education, higher education institutions from sponsoring DE&I programs. It also stops from establishing DE&I offices. Now, this anti-truth bill, which curtails education on systematic inequalities and racial violence, and the historic efforts to gain civil rights and civil liberties for marginalized communities throughout our nations. This language will prohibit assigning any reading material, not just like Florida's ban on woke. It not only bans reading material, it also bans the author from expressing any personal belief or regret that he may have feel, or any information that will make a white student feel bad. That's actually crazy to me. So it's okay for some of your population to live in the truth, and you want the rest of your population not to know the truth exists. This is so confusing to me to see the governor front row at Rickwood Field celebrating the Major League Baseball league coming to Alabama and actually having a professional game for the first time in Alabama. And the reason why they're there is to celebrate our diversity. To celebrate our diversity. Our willingness to be inclusive, to make sure we add the Negro Leagues to the statistic books. And inclusion to make sure that even the 80, 90-year-old black men that wish they could have went to the majors, but that was unable to because of race and other things, that they was included in this. They was actually recognized. They was brought to the middle of the field. They waved, they bowed, and it gave them their flowers while they still was here. It proves that with forward-thinking people like the mayor of Birmingham and his staff and everybody that was involved, that D&I is a great thing. Then being in state government, and I'm also in state government, we have to communicate with other states. And you're literally making us the laughing stock of the country because you create laws and create these bills that puts these restrictions on us, and then we have to interact with other states and act like it doesn't exist when it does. This is a clear contradiction as I see it. But you would understand why that you don't have to have a gun license to have a gun in your possession in Alabama. You will understand if books and certain information about teaching people self-worth and resiliency is banned and not needed. You'll understand if you do not want SNAP benefits of $64 million for your people in your state over the summer to address food insecurities. You will understand this if you knew that there were mega prisons being built and somebody would have to be housed in these things. And the somebody, though somebody just may be you or your children. Remember, this is politics as usual. If you can't shift through the bullshit, you always get fooled by it. Keep your head on the swivel.